This clip was recorded at 7:18 p.m. on an ordinary weekday. At the time, no one noticed the man walking past this camera. No one saved the footage. No one thought it mattered. 6 hours later, his phone went silent. He never made it home. No confirmed sightings, no verified calls, no explanation. Investigators would later agree on one thing. This moment, this exact frame, was not supposed to matter, but it became the last time anyone could prove he was still alive. Let's go back to the beginning. It was an ordinary evening. No warning, no panic, no signs of what was coming. The street camera mounted above the convenience store had been recording all day. Cars passing, people walking, shadows stretching as daylight faded. Nothing unusual, nothing worth remembering, until 6:43 p.m. That's when he entered the frame. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding his face. He wasn't acting like someone who was about to disappear forever. The footage shows him walking calmly along the sidewalk, hands relaxed, posture normal, a jacket zipped halfway, head slightly down, like someone lost in thought. This was not the image of a man in danger. The camera captures him clearly. His height, his build, even the rhythm of his steps. Every movement looks painfully ordinary. For investigators, this moment would later become known as the last confirmed sighting. At the time, no one noticed. Inside the store, customers came and went. A car slowed near the curb, then drove away. The red recording light on the camera stayed on. Silent, indifferent. He walks past the edge of the frame, and that's it. No struggle, no scream, no sudden cut, just empty sidewalk. What makes this footage disturbing isn't what it shows, but what it doesn't. Because from this moment forward, there are no confirmed sightings, no verified calls, no digital trail. It's as if he stepped out of the camera's view and out of reality itself. Later, when police would rewind this clip again and again, they would realize something chilling. This wasn't the beginning of the mystery. This was the end of normal life. In the next 2 minutes, we'll break down who he was, why this walk mattered, and how no one realized they were watching the final seconds of a person who would never be seen again. The camera kept recording, but he never came back. Before he became a mystery, he was just a name on a driver's license. Friends described him as quiet, dependable, the kind of person who showed up on time and never caused problems. He had a routine, same route, same hours, same habits. According to phone records, the day he disappeared started normally. He sent a short message that morning. Nothing emotional, nothing unusual. No goodbyes, no vague warnings. By early evening, he left his residence alone. No luggage, no packed bags, no signs he planned to go anywhere except back home. Investigators would later confirm something important. There were no financial red flags, no large withdrawals, no sudden account activity, no signs of planning an escape. His social media was inactive. Not deleted, not wiped, just untouched. Photos still there, messages unread. That detail bothered detectives, because when people choose to disappear, they usually prepare. This didn't look like preparation. Family members told police he had future plans, work schedules, commitments for the following week. One relative would later say he wouldn't leave without saying something. That just wasn't him. And yet, by nightfall, his phone stopped moving. No outgoing calls, no incoming answers. Location data showed the same place, right near where the camera last saw him. Then, nothing. When police reconstructed his timeline, they kept returning to one uncomfortable fact. The last time anyone could prove he was alive was when he walked past that camera. No witnesses reported a confrontation, no reports of violence, no emergency calls in the area. It was as if he simply stepped off the map. In the next part, we'll examine the footage itself, frame by frame, and reveal the one small detail investigators initially ignored that would later become central to the case. Because sometimes, the most important clue is hiding in plain sight. When detectives first reviewed the footage, They were looking for the obvious, a struggle, a second person, a vehicle stopping suddenly. They found none of it, so they watched again and again, slower this time. That's when someone noticed something small. So small, it had been dismissed at first. As he walks past the camera, his pace changes, not dramatically, not enough to look suspicious, just half a step slower. For less than 2 seconds, his head turns slightly to the left, not toward the store, not toward the street, towards something off camera. Whatever caught his attention was never visible in the frame. Investigators zoomed in, enhanced the footage, adjusted contrast and exposure. Still nothing. But the body language mattered. Experts later said this wasn't random movement. It wasn't distraction. It looked like recognition, as if he saw something or someone he didn't expect to see there. Then he keeps walking. No hesitation, no change in direction, and that's what makes it unsettling. If there was a threat, why didn't he react? If there was danger, why didn't he turn around? One detective put it this way: whatever he noticed didn't scare him, at least not yet. Moments later, he exits the frame. Less than 30 seconds after that, a car passes through the same area. Not speeding, no sudden stop, just another ordinary vehicle in an ordinary place. Police would later track down dozens of cars from that night. Most drivers had nothing useful to say, but one statement stood out. A driver reported seeing a man walking, and then suddenly, not walking anymore. No struggle, no shouting, just gone from view. In the next part, we'll examine the theories: accident, voluntary disappearance, or foul play, and why each one seems to fall apart the closer you look, because whatever happened here was fast, quiet, and left almost no trace.
When a person disappears without witnesses, investigators follow a familiar checklist. First, voluntary disappearance. But that theory collapsed almost immediately. He left behind his phone. His wallet was later found untouched. His bank accounts showed no activity, no cash withdrawals, no travel records, no new identity attempts. People who plan to vanish don't do it empty-handed. So police moved to the second theory: accident. Nearby areas were searched: construction zones, drainage systems, abandoned buildings. Dogs were brought in. Thermal scans were used at night. Nothing. No body, no clothing, no trace of an accident, which left the third option: foul play. But even that didn't behave like a normal crime. There were no signs of a struggle, no witnesses heard shouting, no emergency calls came from the area. If someone took him, they did it quickly and without force visible on camera. That narrowed the possibilities to something disturbing. Either he trusted whoever approached him, or he was incapacitated almost instantly. Investigators revisited the camera angle. They realized something important. The camera did not cover the entire sidewalk. There was a blind spot, a narrow stretch just beyond the frame. Anything could happen there without being recorded, and if someone knew that blind spot existed, they could use it. This raised a chilling question. Was this random or planned? Because spontaneous crimes are messy. This wasn't. Every theory police tested ended the same way, with unanswered gaps. One officer later admitted, "It felt like we were missing a page right in the middle of the story." In the next part, we'll talk about the search, what was found, what wasn't, in the moment investigators realized they might never get clear answers.
Once foul play became a real possibility, the search intensified. Police expanded the radius, not just streets and alleys, but rooftops, backyards, and nearby buildings. Volunteers joined in. Flyers went up on poles and shop windows. His face appeared on local news broadcasts. Nothing changed. Search teams combed through CCTV footage from surrounding blocks, different cameras, different angles, different timestamps. They expected continuity, one camera handing him off to the next. Instead, there was a gap. He appeared on one camera and on no others. That shouldn't have been possible. To disappear that completely, he would have needed to avoid every nearby lens or be removed from the area entirely. Tracking dogs followed his scent to a point near the blind spot, and then it stopped, as if he'd entered a vehicle or never left the ground there at all. Drivers were brought in to check nearby water sources. Drainage systems were opened. Manholes inspected. Still nothing. Weeks passed, then months. The case slowed, not because it was solved, because there was nowhere left to look. Family members kept calling detectives, asking the same question in different ways. Did you find anything new? The answer was always the same: no. One investigator later said this case was harder than homicides because at least with the body, you have a direction. Here, they had a moment on tape and an empty future after it. The camera showed him alive. The world afterward refused to explain what happened next. In the next part, we'll talk about the most unsettling possibility, that this disappearance wasn't violent, but voluntary, in a way no one expected.
As months turned into a year, investigators were forced to consider a theory no family ever wants to hear. What if he chose to disappear? Not to start over, but to stop. There was no suicide note, no history of mental illness on record. But detectives know something uncomfortable. Not everyone leaves signs. Friends later mentioned small things, comments that didn't mean much at the time, moments of withdrawal, long pauses in conversations. Nothing alarming on its own, but together, unsettling. Yet even this theory didn't fully fit. If someone intends to end their life, there's usually a location, a trace, a conclusion. Here, there was nothing. No body found, no evidence recovered, no confirmation. And then there was the camera. People don't usually choose to make their last moment so public. Walking calmly past a store camera in a well-lit area during active hours, it didn't look like an ending. It looked like someone going somewhere. Psychologists reviewing the case pointed out another detail. His body language showed no distress, no hesitation, no visible anxiety. Whatever happened afterward came after that walk, not before. That left one final disturbing idea. He didn't disappear because he wanted to. He disappeared because someone else decided he would. In the next part, we'll examine reports that surfaced later, claims, sightings, and rumors that complicated the case even further. About 2 years after the disappearance, the first report came in. A man in another city claimed he'd seen someone who looked exactly like him. Same height, same build, same walk. The tip reignited hope. Investigators followed up immediately. Surveillance footage was reviewed. Photos were compared. It wasn't him. But once the door to sightings opened, it never fully closed. Over the next few years, similar reports came in from different places: a gas station, a bus terminal, a late-night diner. Each time, families held their breath. Each time, the answer was no. Some tips were honest mistakes. Others were cruel. People called just to insert themselves into the story, to feel important, to be part of the mystery. Investigators had to sort truth from noise. Online forums made it worse. Strangers built theories, secret organizations, underground networks, even claims the footage was staged. None of it was supported by evidence. Still, the case refused to fade, because there was one thing no one could explain: how someone could disappear in a place where people are watching. The street was active, businesses were open, cameras were working, and yet the timeline had a hole in it. Detectives reconstructed the scene again years later, using newer technology, sharper enhancements, better motion analysis. The result was the same. Nothing entered the frame with him. Nothing left the frame with him. He simply exited. One investigator said it felt like the footage was missing a few seconds, not because they were deleted, but because reality itself broke pattern. That idea sounds dramatic, but when logic fails, language follows. Family members still revisit the site, still look at the camera. They ask the same thing police once asked: what happened right here? There's no answer, no arrest,
no remains, no closure, just a man walking past a camera and never being seen again. In the final part, we'll talk about what this case represents and why stories like this stay with us long after the footage ends. Years later, this case is still discussed, not because of what we know, but because of what we don't. There was no dramatic chase, no violent footage, no clear villain. Just a normal person having a normal day who stepped into a moment that broke all the rules. Cases like this disturb people because they feel possible. Nothing about that walk was reckless. Nothing about that night was extreme, and that's the fear. If someone can disappear like this, quietly, instantly, without explanation, then safety starts to feel fragile. Investigators say this case changed how they look at surveillance footage. Cameras don't tell stories, they show fragments, and fragments can lie by omission. Online, the clip is shared again and again, paused, zoomed, analyzed. People argue over frames, over shadows, over half seconds of movement. Everyone thinks the answer is hiding somewhere on that screen, but maybe it isn't. Maybe the footage doesn't show what happened to him, only the last moment before something irreversible began. One investigator summed it up simply: sometimes the camera isn't a witness, it's a boundary. In the final part, we'll bring everything together: the walk, the silence, and the unanswered questions, and explain why this disappearance may never be solved. There are cases with endings, arrests, confessions, explanations. This isn't one of them. The file remains open, but untouched. No new leads, no new evidence, no new footage, just that one clip. A man walking past a camera on an ordinary evening. Investigators eventually stopped asking what happened after the frame ended. They started asking something else. What if this is all we ever get? Because sometimes the last record of a person isn't a final message or a goodbye. It's a moment so normal, no one thought to save it. That camera wasn't documenting a disappearance. It was recording routine, and routine turned out to be the most dangerous thing of all. Somewhere, the footage still exists, archived, time-stamped, unchanging. He's still there, mid-step, alive. The world beyond the frame moved on, but that moment didn't. And that's why this case endures. Not because we know what happened, but because we never will. This is the last known footage, and whatever happened next happened without witnesses.